First, consider the digital battlefield. In modern warfare, cyber attacks aren't just about disrupting banking systems or leaking government secrets. They're about disabling your enemy's eyes and ears. The theory suggests that weeks, perhaps even months, before the first missile was launched, elite Pakistani cyber warfare units, possibly with assistance from their Chinese counterparts, and let's be honest, China has a vested interest in curtailing India's military ambitions, began a painstaking process of infiltrating India's military networks. Think of it as a digital siege, patiently probing for weaknesses, planting logic bombs, and mapping the network architecture of the S-400 system. This wasn't a brute force attack. It was a surgical operation, targeting specific vulnerabilities within the S-400 software. The aim? To create a window of opportunity, a fleeting moment where the system's radar, its primary means of detecting incoming threats, would be temporarily offline. Imagine the complexity involved. The S-400 isn't a single unit. It's a network of radars, command posts, and missile launchers, all interconnected and heavily defended. To penetrate this system requires not just technical skill, but also intimate knowledge of its inner workings. This is where the possibility of insider assistance comes into play. Now, this is where the story gets murkier, venturing into the realm of speculation. But let's entertain the possibility of a disgruntled Indian technician, someone with access to the S-400's operational software, perhaps motivated by ideological reasons, financial incentives, or simply a deep-seated disillusionment with the Indian establishment. This insider, under the code name, let's call him Mirage for dramatic effect, would have been instrumental in planting the malware, providing the precise timing for its activation, and ensuring its seamless integration into the S-400 system. This isn't just the stuff of spy movies. It's a plausible scenario, given the history of espionage and sabotage in the region. Remember the Kulbhushan Jadhav case? It demonstrated India's willingness to meddle in Pakistan's internal affairs. It's not a stretch to imagine Pakistan responding in kind. The malware itself would have been a sophisticated piece of code designed to bypass the S-400's security protocols and target its radar systems directly. It could have corrupted the radar's data feeds, displayed false information, or even temporarily shut down the system altogether. The key was to create a believable malfunction, one that wouldn't immediately trigger alarms or raise suspicions. This required a deep understanding of the S-400's diagnostic systems and the ability to mimic the symptoms of a routine technical fault. With the digital groundwork laid, the next phase of Operation Phantom Veil involved a diversionary tactic, a drone swarm. This wasn't your average off-the-shelf drone. We're talking about a coordinated assault by dozens, perhaps even hundreds, of unmanned aerial vehicles, specifically designed to overwhelm the S-400's defenses. These drones, likely sourced from China, would have possessed advanced electronic warfare capabilities, capable of jamming the S-400's radar and disrupting its communication systems. Imagine the scene: a sky filled with buzzing drones, each emitting a barrage of electronic signals, creating a cacophony of noise that would have severely strained the S-400's ability to track and engage targets. This wasn't just about quantity, it was about quality. The drones would have been programmed to mimic the radar signatures of more threatening targets, such as fighter jets or cruise missiles, forcing the S-400 to expend its resources on these false alarms. Furthermore, some of the drones could have been equipped with self-destruct mechanisms, detonating near the S-400's radar installations to cause physical damage and further disrupt its operations. This saturation tactic, inspired by real-world examples seen in conflicts like the one in Ukraine, is designed to overload the enemy's defenses, creating gaps in their coverage that can be exploited by more lethal weapons. And that's where Pakistan's hypersonic missile, the Fateh-2, comes into the picture. While the S-400 was distracted by the drone swarm and its radar was temporarily blinded by the cyber attack, the Fateh-2, a missile rumored to possess technology derived from China's own hypersonic arsenal, would have streaked towards its target at Mach 5 or higher, 5 times the speed of sound. At that speed, the Fateh-2 would have been incredibly difficult to intercept, even for a system as advanced as the S-400. Its maneuverability, coupled with its sheer velocity, would have made it a nightmare for India's air defense operators. The missile, guided by advanced sensors and targeting algorithms, would have pinpointed the S-400's radar components and launchers, delivering a devastating strike that effectively crippled the system. The choice of the Adampur Air Base as the target wasn't random. It was a strategic decision aimed at crippling India's air power in the region and sending a clear message to New Delhi. Pakistan is capable of striking back, even against your most prized assets. The destruction of the S-400 at Adampur, even if it was only a partial destruction, as some sources suggest, would have been a major blow to India's morale and its military capabilities. Before we dive deeper into this high-stakes operation, a quick reminder. If you're fascinated by untold stories, hidden strategies, and the history they never taught you, make sure to subscribe to History Nerd. This is where we uncover the past with precision, detail, and just the right amount of intrigue, so you never miss the truth behind the headlines. All right, buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into the chaotic opening days of the May 2025 conflict. Forget the diplomatic niceties, forget the carefully crafted press releases. This is about cold, hard military action. This is about Operation Sindoor and Operation Banyan Marsus. This is about how a simmering rivalry exploded into a full-blown inferno. It all started, as these things often do, with accusations and counter-accusations. India, under the iron fist of Modi, claimed to have definitive proof of Pakistani involvement in the Pahalgam terror attack. Remember that? 26 innocent lives snuffed out in the blink of an eye. India, predictably, pointed the finger squarely at Pakistan. Islamabad, of course, vehemently denied any involvement, calling the entire incident a carefully orchestrated false flag operation designed to justify Indian aggression. Sound familiar? It should. This is the same playbook we've seen time and time again. And then, the hammer dropped. At precisely 1:05 a.m. on May 7, 2025, India launched Operation Sindoor, a coordinated missile strike aimed at 9 alleged terrorist training camps inside Pakistan. Think of it, BrahMos cruise missiles, the pride of the Indian arsenal, screaming across the border. The official line from New Delhi? A focused, measured, and non-escalatory response. A surgical strike designed to eliminate terrorist infrastructure without causing military casualties. Of course, that's what they said. According to Indian government reports, the targets were strategically chosen to dismantle the operational capabilities of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba, two organizations they routinely accuse of fomenting unrest in Kashmir. The alleged training camps in Bahawalpur and Muridki, supposedly hubs of terrorist activity, were reduced to rubble in a matter of minutes, or so they claim. Now let's be real. Anyone who believes India's claim of zero military casualties is living in a fantasy world. This was an act of war, plain and simple, regardless of the carefully crafted rhetoric emanating from New Delhi. And Pakistan, thank God, wasn't about to take it lying down. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, understanding the gravity of the situation, immediately convened an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. The message was clear. Pakistan would respond. They reserved the right to respond in self-defense at a time, place, and manner of its choosing. A veiled threat? Absolutely, but a necessary one. You don't poke a sleeping tiger and expect it not to bite back, and bite back it did. What followed was Operation Banyan Marsus, Pakistan's defiant response to Indian aggression. The name itself, roughly translating to solid foundation, sent a clear message. Pakistan would stand firm and defend its sovereignty. Pro-Pakistan accounts paint a picture of decisive action, of Pakistani forces skillfully blunting the Indian attack, and then delivering a series of devastating counterblows. Forget the Indian propaganda about surgical strikes and minimal casualties. The reality, according to sources on the ground, was far different. The initial reports coming out of Pakistan were nothing short of electrifying. The Pakistan Air Force, in a display of aerial prowess, reportedly shot down 6 Indian aircraft. Yes, you heard that right. 6. 3 of those were supposedly the vaunted French-made Dassault Rafale fighters, the crown jewels of the Indian Air Force. Add to that a Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, a Mikoyan MiG-29, and a Mirage 2000, and you've got a seriously bad day for the Indian military. They even managed to take down a Heron reconnaissance drone, and the weapons of choice in this aerial showdown? Reportedly, Chinese-made J-10C fighter jets, equipped with PL-15 air-to-air missiles. This wasn't just about defending Pakistani airspace. It was about showcasing the strength of the Pakistan-China alliance. This dogfight of more than 125 jets of both nations were said to be the largest since World War II. Now, India, predictably, tried to downplay these losses. They claimed their S-400 air defense system, the Sudarshan Chakra, had single-handedly negated Pakistani drone and missile strikes. They even went so far as to accuse Pakistan of attacking its own city of Amritsar to stir up anti-Pakistan sentiment among the Sikh population. A truly ridiculous claim, even by Indian standards. But the truth, as always, has a way of seeping through the cracks. Unnamed government sources in India reportedly admitted that 3 fighter jets had crashed, attributing the incidents to unknown causes. Right. Unknown causes that just happened to coincide with a massive aerial engagement with the Pakistan Air Force. Even more damning, reports emerged that American intelligence officials assessed, with high confidence, that Pakistani J-10 aircraft had shot down at least 2 Indian fighter jets. And one of those jets? A Dassault Rafale, no less. Then came the real shocker. Reports started circulating that Pakistan had successfully targeted and destroyed India's S-400 air defense system at the Adampur Air Base. The S-400, Russia's premier air defense system, often touted as being virtually impenetrable. The one weapon India was counting on to dominate the skies. Gone, neutralized, reduced to smoking rubble. The details surrounding the alleged destruction of the S-400 are still murky, shrouded in secrecy and propaganda. But the implications are staggering. If true, this represents a massive blow to India's military capabilities and a resounding victory for Pakistan. Beyond the aerial battles, Operation Bunyan Marsoos reportedly targeted numerous Indian military bases. Uri's ammunition depot was allegedly engulfed in flames, resulting in significant casualties. The Nagrota Brigade headquarters was supposedly crippled, severely hampering India's forward operations. And to add insult to injury, Pakistani forces allegedly captured 3 strategic posts in Kashmir. This would leave the Indian army deprived of air defense on the Kashmir front. The alleged damage inflicted on the Indian military was substantial. According to Pakistani sources, over 250 Indian soldiers were killed. BrahMos missile facilities were shattered, and the Indian economy suffered a massive blow, with defense losses estimated at a staggering $1.5 billion. Pakistan even claimed that its drones flew over major Indian cities and sensitive political and military sites, including New Delhi. India, of course, denied these claims. They dismissed them as malicious misinformation, releasing time-stamped images of the targeted areas to prove their point. But the satellite imagery told a different story. Craters and fires hinted at the truth behind the smoke, suggesting that the damage was far more extensive than India was willing to admit. The full extent of the damage to the Indian airstrips was further confirmed through commercial imagery obtained by the New York Times. The conflict quickly escalated into a full-blown drone war, with both sides deploying loitering munitions and unmanned aerial vehicles in unprecedented numbers. Pakistan claimed to have shot down a staggering 77 Indian drones. India, in turn, claimed to have neutralized Pakistani air defense systems in Lahore. The reality on the ground was likely far more complex, with both sides suffering significant losses in the skies. Amidst the chaos, reports emerged of attacks on religious sites. Pakistan accused India of attacking a Sikh Gurdwara in Nankana Sahib, a claim that New Delhi vehemently denied. India, in turn, accused Pakistan of attacking a Gurdwara in Poonch, resulting in the death of a religious leader and other members of the Sikh community. These allegations served to further inflame tensions and deepen the sense of animosity between the two nations. As the fighting raged, diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the conflict intensified. Saudi Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir reportedly shuttled between Islamabad and New Delhi in a bid to broker a ceasefire. But with both sides locked in a cycle of escalating violence, a diplomatic solution seemed increasingly elusive. Eventually, on May 10th, a ceasefire was announced. But what forced India to accept a ceasefire? Reports suggested that it was U.S. President Donald Trump who finally brokered the deal, intervening to prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control. Pakistan, according to these accounts, had inflicted such heavy losses on the Indian military that New Delhi had no choice but to accept a face-saving exit. Despite many countries asking India to cease fire, India was adamant that it would teach Pakistan a lesson. It's critical to understand that the conflict was not merely a series of isolated military engagements. It was part of a long and complex history of rivalry and mistrust between India and Pakistan. A history rooted in the unresolved issue of Kashmir, India's expansionist designs, and its unwillingness to accept Pakistan as a legitimate sovereign nation. India's persistent denial of the creation of Pakistan and its continuous efforts to weaken and destabilize Pakistan have always posed an existential threat, forcing Pakistan to pursue nuclear capabilities as a deterrent. Under the Modi regime, India has shown a consistent lack of seriousness in resolving the Kashmir issue and has adopted a hegemonic mindset, using Afghanistan as a base for anti-Pakistan activities. The episode involving Kulbhushan Jadhav, an alleged Indian spy, further exposed India's destabilizing intentions. India's ambition to bypass Pakistan through the Chabahar port, connecting to Iran and Afghanistan, also highlights its unwillingness to accept the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. India has never shown any inclination to discuss the Kashmir issue. The conflict ended with a ceasefire starting at 1700 hours, IST 1630 hours, PKT, and was first announced by U.S. President Donald Trump on social media prior to the official statements by the Indian and Pakistan foreign ministers. But even after the ceasefire came to effect, there were reports of explosions in the cities of Srinagar and Jammu, according to authorities, residents, and reporters. The success of Operation Banyan Marsus was so great that countrywide celebrations were arranged in Pakistan after the ceasefire was declared on May 10. A 31-gun salute was arranged in the federal capital, and 21-gun salutes were given in all provincial and regional capitals to mark the great success of Operation Banyan Marsus. So, what was really going on? What was the true extent of the damage inflicted by both sides? And what does this conflict tell us about the future of the India-Pakistan relationship? That's what we're going to explore in the next part of the video. But first, let's delve into a compelling theory on just how Pakistan might have accomplished the impossible. Let's break down this Operation Phantom Veil, the alleged masterstroke that redefined the balance of power in South Asia. Forget the David versus Goliath narrative. This was a calculated dismantling of a so-called impenetrable defense system. We're talking about the S-400, a system hyped as the ultimate shield, neutralized apparently by Pakistani ingenuity. How? Let's dive deep, separating fact from fiction, though admittedly, the lines get blurred in the fog of war and the narrative spun by both sides. First, consider the digital battlefield. In modern warfare, cyber attacks aren't just about disrupting banking systems or leaking government secrets. They're about disabling your enemy's eyes and ears. The theory suggests that weeks, perhaps even months, before the first missile was launched, elite Pakistani cyber warfare units, possibly with assistance from their Chinese counterparts, and let's be honest, China has a vested interest in curtailing India's military ambitions, began a painstaking process of infiltrating India's military networks. Think of it as a digital siege, patiently probing for weaknesses, planting logic bombs, and mapping the network architecture of the S-400 system. This wasn't a brute force attack. It was a surgical operation, targeting specific vulnerabilities within the S-400 software. The aim? To create a window of opportunity, a fleeting moment where the system's radar, its primary means of detecting incoming threats, would be temporarily offline. Imagine the complexity involved. The S-400 isn't a single unit. It's a network of radars, command posts, and missile launchers, all interconnected and heavily defended. To penetrate this system requires not just technical skill, but also intimate knowledge of its inner workings. This is where the possibility of insider assistance comes into play. Now, this is where the story gets murkier, venturing into the realm of speculation. But let's entertain the possibility of a disgruntled Indian technician, someone with access to the S-400's operational software, perhaps motivated by ideological reasons, financial incentives, or simply a deep-seated disillusionment with the Indian establishment. This insider, under the code name, let's call him Mirage for dramatic effect, would have been instrumental in planting the malware, providing the precise timing for its activation, and ensuring its seamless integration into the S-400 system. This isn't just the stuff of spy movies. It's a plausible scenario, given the history of espionage and sabotage in the region. Remember the Kulbhushan Jadhav case? It demonstrated India's willingness to meddle in Pakistan's internal affairs. It's not a stretch to imagine Pakistan responding in kind. The malware itself would have been a sophisticated piece of code designed to bypass the S-400's security protocols and target its radar systems directly. It could have corrupted the radar's data feeds, displayed false information, or even temporarily shut down the system altogether. The key was to create a believable malfunction, one that wouldn't immediately trigger alarms or raise suspicions. This required a deep understanding of the S-400's diagnostic systems and the ability to mimic the symptoms of a routine technical fault. With the digital groundwork laid, the next phase of Operation Phantom Veil involved a diversionary tactic, a drone swarm. This wasn't your average off-the-shelf drone. We're talking about a coordinated assault by dozens, perhaps even hundreds, of unmanned aerial vehicles, specifically designed to overwhelm the S-400's defenses. These drones, likely sourced from China, would have possessed advanced electronic warfare capabilities, capable of jamming the S-400's radar and disrupting its communication systems. Imagine the scene: a sky filled with buzzing drones, each emitting a barrage of electronic signals, creating a cacophony of noise that would have severely strained the S-400's ability to track and engage targets. This wasn't just about quantity, it was about quality. The drones would have been programmed to mimic the radar signatures of more threatening targets, such as fighter jets or cruise missiles, forcing the S-400 to expend its resources on these false alarms. Furthermore, some of the drones could have been equipped with self-destruct mechanisms, detonating near the S-400's radar installations to cause physical damage and further disrupt its operations. This saturation tactic, inspired by real-world examples seen in conflicts like the one in Ukraine, is designed to overload the enemy's defenses, creating gaps in their coverage that can be exploited by more lethal weapons. And that's where Pakistan's hypersonic missile, the Fatah-2, comes into the picture. While the S-400 was distracted by the drone swarm and its radar was temporarily blinded by the cyber attack, the Fatah-2, a missile rumored to possess technology derived from China's own hypersonic arsenal, would have streaked towards its target at Mach 5 or higher, 5 times the speed of sound. At that speed, the Fatah-2 would have been incredibly difficult to intercept, even for a system as advanced as the S-400. Its maneuverability, coupled with its sheer velocity, would have made it a nightmare for India's air defense operators. The missile, guided by advanced sensors and targeting algorithms, would have pinpointed the S-400's radar components and launchers, delivering a devastating strike that effectively crippled the system. The choice of the Adampur Air Base as the target wasn't random. It was a strategic decision aimed at crippling India's air power in the region and sending a clear message to New Delhi. Pakistan is capable of striking back, even against your most prized assets. The destruction of the S-400 at Adampur, even if it was only a partial destruction, as some sources suggest, would have been a major blow to India's morale and its military capabilities. In a stunning escalation during Operation Bunyan-ul-Marsus on May 10, 2025, the Pakistan Air Force, PAF, first deployed Fatah-1 and Fatah-2 missiles to inflict severe damage on ground-based Indian radar systems, blinding defenses across Punjab and Kashmir. Moments later, JF-17 Thunderjets launched CM-400 AKG anti-radiation hypersonic missile, directly targeting and destroying the S-400 battery at Adampur Air Base, shattering India's air defense pride. The bombardment was relentless, integrating cyber attacks that disrupted Indian grids and networks, overwhelming bases like Uri and Nagrota. According to estimates from military personnel, The ammo volume unleashed in this 5-hour retaliation surpassed what Pakistan used over 17 days in the 1965 war. The intensity forced India to urgently contact the US for a ceasefire, averting further catastrophe. But to separate the triumphant Pakistani narrative from the fog of war, let's examine the claimed versus verified damages, drawing on independent reports from outlets like the New York Times, Reuters, and the Stimson Center, to reveal what truly unfolded in this high-stakes clash. Starting with aircraft losses, Pakistan claimed to have downed 6 Indian jets, including 3 Rafales and a Mirage 2000, using their J-10C and JF-17 fighters, plus over 77 Indian drones. India countered that their S-400 system downed 6 Pakistani aircraft and intercepted hundreds of drones and missiles. But verified reports paint a more modest picture. Only 3 to 4 aircraft were confirmed downed in total, with mixed losses on both sides. 1 or 2 Indian Rafales or Mirages, and 1 or 2 Pakistani JF-17s. Satellite imagery showed craters at bases, but no mass destruction. Ex-users, like at Times Algebra IND, shared photos of intact Indian jets, while Pakistani posts from at Defense Diplomat celebrated unverified wins. No solid evidence backs claims of 6 losses on either side. On air defenses and the S-400, Pakistan boasted of destroying 1 or 2 Indian batteries at Adampur, hitting radars and disabling BrahMos facilities. India called the S-400 a game-changer, insisting it neutralized most threats and suffered no damage, even neutralizing Pakistani HQ-9 radars. Independent verification? India denied it via a PIB fact-check on May 10th, and PM Modi posed with an intact launcher on May 13th. An operator's obituary surfaced on May 14th, speculated as evidence of casualties, but it's unconfirmed. Satellites showed limited damage at Adampur, and India's June 2025 request for 2 more S-400s fueled theories of replacements, perhaps admitting partial hits amid vulnerabilities seen in similar systems during Ukraine conflicts. For bases and ammo depots, Pakistan said they wrecked 3 to 9 Indian sites, including Adampur hangars, Nagrota HQ, and Uri Depot explosions, plus capturing 3 Kashmir posts. India claimed destruction of Pakistani LOC posts, 3 bases like Nur Khan and Rafiki, and damaged ammo in Punjab and Sindh. Reality check: some craters and explosions were confirmed by Reuters and Al Jazeera on May 10th, with Uri and Nagrota fires verified via X videos from users like @Walidyar07. But no total wipeout. Civilian areas suffered too, with mosques and homes damaged. No captures were proven, though strikes near Pakistan's Nur Khan base raised nuclear alarms due to its proximity to command sites. Casualties: Pakistan alleged 45 to 250 plus Indian soldiers killed, with minimal own losses. India reported just 4 Pakistani injured and low Indian tolls. Independent estimates: around 50 to 100 military deaths combined, plus 66 civilians, like 16 from Poonch shelling. Speculations from its soldier harem hyped Pakistani victories, but Indian media like NDTV refuted them as exaggerated. Finally, other impacts. Pakistan claimed they forced India to cease fire amid economic fallout, like trade halts. India said they bypassed defenses without needing escalation. Verified disruptions included airspace closures, speculated $1.5 billion in defense losses, and nuclear fears spiked by Pakistan's May 10th NCA announcement, per Reuters, prompting U.S. mediation. Trade suspensions lingered, and Trump's August tariffs on India over Russian deals, including cheap oil and S-400s, added diplomatic strain, costing billions and pushing India toward alternatives. Now let's address the skepticism. India, of course, vehemently denied that its S-400 was destroyed, claiming that it had successfully intercepted Pakistani missiles and drones. But satellite imagery, analyzed by independent experts, revealed evidence of craters and fires at the Adampur Air Base, suggesting that something significant had indeed occurred. Moreover, consider the aftermath. India's frantic scramble to acquire additional S-400 systems from Russia and its renewed efforts to purchase more Rafale fighter jets from France speak volumes. These actions suggest that India suffered significant losses in the May 2025 skirmish, losses that it was desperately trying to replace. Why would they be rushing to replenish their arsenal if their S-400 was fully operational and effective? The answer, it seems, is self-evident. Furthermore, the global repercussions of the conflict, particularly the imposition of sanctions by the United States against India for its continued reliance on Russian military equipment, further underscore the severity of the situation. These sanctions, imposed by the Trump administration, were a clear signal that Washington was losing patience with New Delhi's balancing act between the West and Moscow. And let's not forget about the drones. It's been said that over 77 of India's drones were taken down by Pakistan, and that Pakistan Air Force, PARF, shot down 6 Indian Air Force, IAF aircraft, including 3 French-made Dassault Rafale jets, 1 Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, 1 Mikoyan MiG-29, and a Mirage 2000. Also, according to Pakistan, these aircraft were shot down in Indian airspace using Chinese-made J-10C jets equipped with PL-15 air-to-air missiles. Operation Phantom Veil, if it indeed unfolded as described, was a testament to Pakistan's strategic thinking and its ability to punch above its weight. It was a calculated risk, a gamble that paid off handsomely, demonstrating that even the most advanced military systems can be vulnerable to a combination of ingenuity, deception, and cutting-edge technology. The destruction of the S-400, whether it was a complete or partial destruction, was a watershed moment, a turning point in the regional power dynamics that will be felt for years to come. And for Pakistan, it was a moment of triumph, a validation of its military prowess and its unwavering determination to defend its sovereignty. The dust settled, but the shockwaves were only beginning. The 4-day inferno between Pakistan and India, a conflict ignited by the Pahalgam false flag and fueled by escalating missile and drone strikes, left a smoldering landscape, both literally and figuratively. Operation Bunyan Marsus, as Pakistan called its retaliatory campaign, had achieved the unthinkable, crippling India's offensive capabilities and, most importantly, taking out its crown jewel, the S-400 air defense system. But the consequences stretch far beyond the immediate theater of war. The first and most visible consequence was India's desperate scramble to rearm. The destruction of the S-400 at Adampur, even if India continues to downplay the extent of the damage, sent alarm bells ringing throughout New Delhi. Reports indicated that within weeks, frantic back-channel negotiations were underway, with Russia to expedite the delivery of 2 more S-400 batteries, shipments allegedly slated for 2025 to 2026. But the shopping spree didn't stop there. Emboldened by Pakistan's show of force and likely sensing an opportunity, France capitalized on India's newfound vulnerability. The Modi government, facing intense domestic pressure and a rapidly deteriorating security situation, reportedly fast-tracked a deal to acquire 4 additional Rafale fighter jets, a move seen by many defense analysts as a tacit admission of the heavy losses sustained during the May skirmish, losses that India stubbornly refused to acknowledge publicly. These emergency purchases, while aimed at plugging the gaping holes in India's air defense and offensive strike capabilities, came at a significant cost, both economically and diplomatically. India's already strained public finances were stretched to the breaking point. Furthermore, these deals, particularly the continued reliance on Russian military hardware, triggered a furious response from Washington. In August 2025, then U.S. President Donald Trump, never one to shy away from wielding economic power as a geopolitical weapon, slapped a hefty additional 25% tariff on Indian exports. This effectively doubled the existing tariff rate to a crippling 50%, a punitive measure aimed at punishing New Delhi for its continued defiance of U.S. sanctions policy. The official justification? India's continued reliance on Russian oil imports, which Trump argued were indirectly funding Moscow's war machine. The S-400 deal, of course, was the elephant in the room. Trump, known for his transactional approach to foreign policy, saw the situation as an opportunity to exert leverage in his ongoing negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He reportedly warned New Delhi of further economic penalties unless it demonstrably severed ties with Moscow. This ultimatum threw India into a state of panic. forced to choose between alienating a long-standing strategic partner in Russia and risking economic ruin at the hands of the United States, New Delhi scrambled to find alternative oil sources, desperately seeking to appease Washington without completely abandoning its relationship with Moscow. The U.S. sanctions and the pressure campaign that accompanied them triggered a fierce debate within American foreign policy circles. Critics, like former National Security Advisor John Bolton, argued that Trump's heavy-handed tactics were counterproductive, only serving to push India further into the arms of Russia and, more worryingly, China. After all, necessity is the mother of invention, and when faced with the combined economic and diplomatic pressure from the West, India found itself with fewer and fewer options. The economic and diplomatic fallout wasn't confined to India alone. The conflict had a ripple effect across the entire region and beyond. International trade routes were disrupted, supply chains were thrown into chaos, and global investors became increasingly wary of the region's instability. The Karachi Stock Exchange, for example, experienced a dramatic crash in the immediate aftermath of the conflict, reflecting the widespread uncertainty and fear that gripped the Pakistani business community. On the diplomatic front, the international community was largely divided. The United States, while condemning the use of force by both sides, clearly tilted towards India, reflecting its strategic partnership and shared concerns about China's growing influence in the region. European powers, while expressing concern about the escalation, were hesitant to take a strong stance, wary of jeopardizing their lucrative trade relationships with both India and Pakistan. China predictably threw its weight behind Pakistan, offering strong diplomatic support and reportedly providing Islamabad with crucial intelligence and technological assistance. This unwavering support further solidified the already strong strategic alliance between the two nations and reinforced the perception of a growing Sino-Pakistani axis in opposition to India's regional ambitions. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, issued a statement calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict and expressing concern about the plight of the Kashmiri people. However, the OIC's influence was limited, and its statement did little to alleviate the tensions on the ground. Faced with mounting international pressure and a deteriorating security situation, both India and Pakistan ultimately agreed to a ceasefire, brokered through intense back-channel diplomacy led by the United States, though rumors persist that Saudi Arabia also played a significant mediating role. On May 10, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump took to social media to announce the cessation of hostilities, a move that was later confirmed by official statements from both New Delhi and Islamabad. However, the ceasefire was fragile and fraught with challenges. Sporadic clashes along the line of control, LOC, continued to occur, and both sides accused each other of violating the terms of the agreement. Distrust and animosity remained deeply entrenched, making any meaningful dialogue or reconciliation seem like a distant prospect. Moreover, the conflict exposed deep-seated vulnerabilities and highlighted the shifting power dynamics in the region. India's military and technological superiority, once considered unquestionable, had been shattered by Pakistan's audacious and surprisingly effective counterstrikes. The destruction of the S-400, regardless of the exact method employed, served as a stark reminder that even the most advanced and sophisticated weapon systems are not invincible. The conflict also underscored the growing importance of non-kinetic warfare. The alleged use of cyber warfare, electronic warfare, and drone swarms by Pakistan to create an opening for the hypersonic missile strike demonstrated the evolving nature of modern warfare and the need for nations to invest in these emerging technologies. Furthermore, the crisis had a profound impact on regional alliances. India's reliance on Russia and its subsequent vulnerability to U.S. sanctions strained its relationships with both countries, forcing it to reassess its foreign policy priorities. Pakistan, on the other hand, emerged from the conflict with its strategic alliance with China strengthened and its international standing enhanced. The events of May 2025 also highlighted the enduring importance of the Kashmir dispute as a flashpoint for conflict between India and Pakistan. The Pahalgam attack, regardless of who was responsible, served as a catalyst for the escalating tensions and ultimately triggered the four-day war. Until the Kashmir issue is resolved in a just and equitable manner, lasting peace and stability in the region will remain elusive. In the aftermath of the ceasefire, both India and Pakistan engaged in a fierce propaganda war, each side attempting to shape the narrative and portray itself as the victor. India, despite the evidence to the contrary, continued to downplay its losses and emphasize its defensive capabilities. Pakistan, on the other hand, celebrated its victory and highlighted the humiliation inflicted on its larger and more powerful neighbor. However, beneath the surface of the propaganda, a more sober assessment was taking place in both countries. Military analysts and policymakers were carefully studying the lessons learned from the conflict, identifying areas for improvement and developing new strategies to address the evolving security landscape. The long-term implications of the May 2025 conflict are still unfolding. The region has entered a new era of uncertainty and instability, characterized by shifting alliances, heightened tensions, and the ever-present threat of renewed conflict. The balance of power has shifted, and the future of South Asia remains precariously poised on a knife's edge. Pakistan, having demonstrated its resolve and military capabilities, now finds itself in a stronger position to pursue its strategic interests in the region. The destruction of the S-400 and the successful execution of Operation Banyan Marsus have not only enhanced Pakistan's security, but have also sent a clear message to its adversaries. Pakistan will not hesitate to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity, even at the risk of all-out war. The events of May 2025 will undoubtedly be studied and debated for years to come. But one thing is clear: the conflict has fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape of South Asia and ushered in a new era of uncertainty and strategic competition. Whether the region can navigate these challenges peacefully remains to be seen. But one thing is for certain: Pakistan stands tall in the face of adversity, united, resolute, and ready to defend its homeland against any threat. Pakistan proved its words: unity, faith, discipline, and resilience were completely backed up during this conflict, and our armed forces demonstrated to the world a force to be reckoned with, and a new exclusive honor of its own with our new smart interface of the most sophisticated domains spectrums of modern war. It will forever be remembered.